Grand rising, good morning, and bueno mañanas. What is that clicking? It's probably the what am I trying to say? The rain coming out, like the condensation and the dew. Dang, look at that pretty little forest vibe over there. Coming to you from Centerville, Tennessee, the old mama's house. This is my sister. And I am gonna kick off our time together today with a question. What do we do? What do we do? Oh, I know what we do. Because I had this idea a couple of years ago that was a theory in words of a slogan, which is everything is a little too loud. And I do believe that what we should do is we should all have a seat. That's what I think it is. We should all have a seat.
Have a seat? Have a rest?
Have a seat. I don't know about rest yet, because I think the rest will come once we're seated. And I think that's the thing, is like sit down and then sit and just sit for a minute. Like think about a conference. You go in and you sit down and there's the hustle and bustle sound, and then eventually after a while, you know what I mean, someone will come up on stage or something, and then the side conversations just slowly start like dwindling down until it's silent, whether the speaker is speaking or not. And I think until we get to that point where it's like in the movie theater or in that conference, like we got to be able to sit and so that we can hear, and then we can rest. Because I just feel like we're too everywhere. We're doing too much. And that's what I think. Like, it's too much, and there's so much. Like, there's so much to fix, so much to do, that it's like, if we keep doing stuff, we're going to make it worse, or keep doing.
So I feel
stuff.
about making. We have to stop making things.
Yeah, like
I'm an artist. You know this.
Just stop, like, and not
It's
even
different.
Stop, like, just don't do. You know, like, you can still do what you do, but you don't have to go places or do things, or just like how COVID made everybody sit down and everyone made like memes about it, like, oh look, wow,
I can make bread.
a reset, right? And
We saw the earth heal itself a little bit.
And it wasn't that we stopped like existing or stopped. We just sat down. We just had no choice but to sit down. And I think that there's just, because we're all burnt out. Like, there's not a person out here, even the most happiest person, you can't be not burnt out in this day and age. I feel like we've just gone through
I would
too
add
much.
the context of Western civilization, because I don't know.
I can't speak for anything outside of my current reality, and that's what I'm talking about. Is like, you can't. I mean, you can keep going, but you're just not. We're not in a place right now. We watched this thing last night about Philadelphia and the drug crisis there, and
Also on YouTube. I'll make sure to add the link.
something my mom had said was like, well, what do you even do? Like, where's the mayor at? And I'm like, you know, the first response that sis and I had was, well, you got to be there. Like, you need to be present. Like, go there and see, because you can't solve a problem. You know, I can't solve world hunger if I've never seen it. So, like, how can I can't fix the car unless I look at it.
And it's not just looking at it, it's also like,
You got to get in there.
and you can't just look at one person's world hunger, right? You gotta go to Venezuela, then you gotta go to El Salvador, and then even in those places, you gotta go to like the little, like, you can't go to Philly and expect what works in Philly to work in Centerville, and not that it won't, but I think it's also, you gotta know, you can't also reinvent the wheel. So it's a part of that sitting down and then listening to who came before you. And the ideas present. And also, I think, especially this is where nonprofits get it real messed up, they don't ask the population what they need. they be assuming that just because you're got cerebral palsy, or that just because you had a stroke, or because you lost your leg and are on fentanyl, that you don't know what you need and that you can't think. And I'm not saying that we need to treat everybody like at the same level, but we do need to honor that we all come with our own lived experience and therefore our own valid perspectives and useful tips, tricks, and trades.
Yeah, because, I mean, think about it like this. This is one of my favorite analogies. Like, me and my sister were raised by the exact same person. We both turned out, we're similar, but we're very different.
Very different.
And we both have very different memories. Yes, we have similar ones, but we also have very different memories. We have very different
experiences of the same event.
Yes, like we could have gone through something, anything. I can't even think of something right now. And she would be like, "Oh, I took it as this," and I would be like, "Oh, I took it as this," and it'd be like, "Wow, that's crazy," because we came from the same womb. We were raised by mom gave us the same set of rules.
She even gave us the same initials.
Our dad,
so our stuff didn't get lost.
Left both of us. When I tell you this one was bent out of shape as a kid.
Very bent.
I couldn't care less.
Does not care.
Why?
To this day.
People say, well, she could bond with him. This girl's 21 months older than me. Yeah, okay, the bond is there, sure, whatever. But, like, there's just no way. We both visited in prison. You know what I mean? We both saw that, like, okay, this is what it is. Me, I was like, okay, you know, dad, jail, cool. She was like, there's a chance our parents are going to get back together. I didn't even know what that meant. Like, I was like, what do you mean, like, get together? Like, what is together? Like, I don't get that. So I think about it like, okay, so if that's true for
sisters,
I
didn't get that either because
siblings,
dad wasn't even there when I was born.
Exactly. And like even my mom and her brother.
He was there when I was born, but he wasn't there while I was
My mom and her brother, we were just even talking about it. Like, mom was like, at some point, my brother's got to let go of the fact that their dad was like an abusive alcoholic.
Yeah.
Okay, we get it. You know what I mean? Like, she's like, move on. He's like, I'll be bitter for the rest of my life. I hate that man. They're siblings, same parents, same situation. In fact, my mom spent more time with their dad than my uncle did. So it's like, what? And when you think about that, if that's true for a family, and everyone is like this, if that's true for friends, if that's true for people, then that means it's true across the board for people. So every experience is going to impact you differently every time. Just like even kids who go through to have divorced parents. Do you remember when Bryson and them were going through their divorce?
Yeah.
I'm talking about it had them
tore
up.
I remember in high school, I was like 13 and a freshman. I was still in Florida, and mom was like, I came home because one of my friends their parents were going through a divorce. I was like, Mom, like, this girl is like, she's, I don't even know what I said because I didn't swear or anything at the time, but I said something like, I told my mom that this friend of mine is having a really hard time with her parents' divorce. And I was talking to my mom, and I was like, and I just don't get it. Like, it's not that big a deal. Everything's chill. It'll be fine.
Like, it's more fun.
But
honestly,
Mom said something, and it's been so long since I remembered this, but she said something to the effect of, it was something about that now is just grace and letting people understanding that where you're at is not where everybody else is at, and none of that is lesser or greater. If you can't show up for someone where they're at, there can't be any quote unquote benefit or elevation to where you're at if you lose your empathy and ability to like connect and like, I feel like just meet the person. I don't know if that's, I don't like using words like empathy, compassion, because English, there's so much leeway with how a word can be used.
It's sitting in the suck.
Sitting in
My
the suck.
professor
The
said
messy
that.
middle.
Just sit there. You know, like, you don't have to fix or just if I can come to you and be like, okay, if I truly want to help somebody, then that means I'm going to walk up and be like, okay, what's going on? Your friend is having a mental breakdown. You're not mad at them for that. You're not being like, okay, first get it together and put on your makeup and then go to work and then call me on your way home from work and tell me what was bothering you. No, you go into their house when they're scream crying and you walk up to them and you're like, okay, you are ugly crying right now. And
so you just do one of these.
And you sit there and you're like, okay.
You don't have to respond. That's hard for me. Because I'll be like, I don't know if you're coming to, so now I have to ask, are you coming to me for advice? Are you coming to me for a shoulder? Or are you coming to me for an ear? That's something I have to prerequisite with. And sometimes, because everybody's you gotta know how you need to be met. So if you're socially awkward and autistic, I don't like saying socially awkward. I say that because y'all people say that, but I'm gonna stop doing that. So if you are some form of like social norms, you violate them a lot on accident or on purpose, whatever. If you're one of these persons that doesn't polite well, then I feel like it's really important to understand that you are also a person that needs to be met. You are also a person that is bringing a challenging perspective. Like, you looking at someone, oh, that's so gross, that's so embarrassing, that's so foul. Like, I understand that. We have English blood, royalty even, prissy, you know? But at some point, the same way nobody cared, like at some point in your life, nobody cares what happened to you when you was 8, is also at the same point and you're also that you come to, like, nobody cares if you are, oh, I'm just snarky, or like I'm just a bitch, like I'm just, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's on all the way around. We have to understand that we need space, and the more that I understand how much space I need, it increases my space for others.
Well, and I think that also comes with like understanding, I don't know, because I'd be thinking like, okay, you have a kid, you raise the kid to be who you want it to be, essentially. Like, everyone says, I have a kid and they're gonna grow up to do. Okay, we all know that's BS, because you can't sit here in my face and tell me that you had no goals for this child. You're gonna sit here and tell me you didn't be like, my kid's gonna do X, Y, and Z.
Well, maybe if they were surprised.
I want my kids to do. Even then, you got 9 months to cook them dreams up. And I promise you, every single one of you is like, what if? So you have some kind of idea for what you want to do. Whether that's as extreme as when they come out the womb and we're putting footballs in their hands, basketball, they gonna be around this motherfucker, yeah. Okay, cool, do that. Or you're just like the free spirit that's like, we just let them, like, whatever they want to do it. Like, that's also great. But you still have a goal, because you are you. What she was saying. You have your things. You are naturally going to raise your child with those same things. Yes, they're going to take it and spin. I am my mother's child. But I am also very not like my mom. Like, we are very different. But let me tell you something. When you meet my mom, you're like, oh, yeah.
And also, she's changed.
She has, because
but she's the together. Same, and she's the same, and that's what it is.
And
the seasons change, but it's always the same.
When you're dealing with people, and this is something that I've just kind of done throughout my life, but I've never been able to articulate or honestly be aware of it until now that I'm older and I like pay attention to these kinds of things. Like, when you're dealing with somebody, you always remember, like, this is somebody. This is some other person. I have absolutely sometimes I used to freak myself out with this, because I would look at other people and I'd be like,
I want to
there's
see through
no
their eyes
way
so
you're a
bad.
real person. Like, I'd be like, you're not convincing me that this is real. Like, you have a whole thought. Sometimes, like, even with my sister, sometimes I want to get mad about something, or I want to feel a type of way, and I can never do it, because I always remember, like, what does she feel like? But, like, think about that. You know what I mean? Like,
I used to stare out the window on our car trips and be like, willing myself to see through someone else's eyes, like trying to project my body, like my body through their body, and just be like, what? Like, you are here, and I'm going past you. I remember, I was like 7, 9, 13. I actively remember, I remember staring at that window, with whatever book, whatever direction we were going. You remember the time Mom threw our CDs out the window?
Yes. That's hilarious.
That's so funny. I think about
But that's
that every time
dedication,
tonight,
and
'cause
honestly,
I know, I respect it.
that's where I'm at too, because I'm like, you know what?
I
This is
respect it.
actually detrimental to my life. I'm
Send
gonna launch it out the window, coming down the highway.
Context: our mom is Christian, and
She loved her some Shania Twain.
loved her some Shania Twain. We got all kinds of country.
Man, but she
All
was
kinds of
listening
stuff.
to it, and then out of nowhere, she was just like,
rips it out.
hits the eject, bam, we're done with this. Launches it out the window.
Her whole CD collection. She had a
Whole
lot,
CD.
y'all. This is 2005.
I don't know.
Something.
I don't know
We were
years.
on our way for
But
something.
let me tell you something. Launched that shit. And like, now I'm like, damn, litter. But then also I'm like, those are the moments that's like, we would pick up. I'm picking up them CDs today. You know what I'm saying? Somebody like us, but when we were kids, picked that up and made something really cool. I know they did. Like,
Or
I
it's just as
absolutely
rotting
know.
in
Or
the
they,
earth.
or but I like to believe the other one. And so I'm like, that's so cool though, because that's the dedication I'm talking about.
Maybe that's where Slink was born.
I see that
The
in
moment
my,
where
Mhm.
where the ground, where the swampy Florida ate the Shania Twain chucked out of
Let me tell you, because
the righteous
but I see
vengeance
those
of my
same-
mother.
I see those same tendencies in myself. Like,
Oh, I do it. I do it.
anytime I'm like I was telling
Dedication.
Jada and my sister, I love Alani's. I love the Alani drinks. I was in the gym the other day, and I'm drinking my Alani. I only have one a day because it's like crack
Only
to
when
me
we go to the gym.
for the gym, because it really makes my gym.
Bro, that
experience
is
so
crack.
exciting.
I don't
love
care
it.
who you are. That stuff is
So,
crack. Look,
context,
it's all crack.
in the Alani drinks, my girl put me on to the fact that there's an ingredient called like cyanoblamin.
It's usually the last one.
And it's, in parentheses, it's synthetic B12, which is what it is. But apparently, the ingredients are derived from the feces in the sewage system. So they take little samples, you know, because it's all science, and like technically it gets through a broken down process, and that's cool, that's fine. But I'm like, it made me think, this is just how I work as a person. People say it's OCD, whatever. I think I would be okay if it was like my shit, because I know what I eat. You know what I'm saying? But just a whole city sewer, you know, I'm cool. Like, I don't even know where this shit is literally coming from. I'm so
A
fine.
nation
Like,
sewer?
and so just knowing that somebody's, I don't care what process it went through. You're paying somebody to go in there and scoop that shit. Like, I really would eat animal shit faster, because I know animals eat, like, okay, they eat trash and stuff like that, but they're not eating like sweat
Cheetos.
and like they're humans. Like, the humans are just so much grosser to me than animals. I don't know why.
I feel like it's because animals are way more connected to their primality, therefore their nervous system is more like regulated in the sense that they sleep, they eat, they mate, and you know, they don't necessarily go through crises unless it's a human condition.
I don't know. It's just like when it even, like, I could see, okay, you know, slugs are gross, you know. What's another
No, they're
gross
not, but
thing?
slugs are
Like,
really important for
well,
decomposition.
no, listen, I'm telling you, like, on a simple, like, how they make me feel. Like, I'm like, ew,
Right.
You know what I mean? But then I'm like, if I see a human living in that kind of, like, filth,
Yeah.
I'm so much more disgusted
Right.
than I am when I see an animal. And I know that is true for everybody, because
Well, the reason why-
nobody looks at an animal the way they look at a homeless person or a crackhead.
Yeah.
And that's a fact. So, but anyways, back to the Alani, because the whole point is I'm similar to my mom, because I'm in the gym and I remember that, like, this shit is shit, literally. And I already know, like, I shouldn't be drinking this fake drink, even though it says vegan and gluten free. It's still, like, super synthetic and, like, definitely robot fuel. You know?
And you don't need to produce your own energy, actually. And I'm a crackhead.
I love it. Like, I get why everybody wants to drink it. Like, it actually got me
I
going.
get you.
But I'm like, also, I do love my body. And
Love my body.
And I have vices. So I do pick my poison. Thank you very much.
I do too.
So
we all do.
I'm in the gym and I'm like, you know, when your breath doesn't smell bad, but it's just like you can taste something. I'm literally on the stair stepper, dying. And I'm like, I was like, I can never drink an Alani again. Like, straight like that. It was over. Like, I was so sickened.
That's how it was for
by
me.
the Alani in front of me. I was like, ugh. And I thought about this moment now. I'm like, and then my mom just sitting there driving out of nowhere. You know, from outside looking in, that probably looked crazy.
Insane.
I'm just standing on the stairs, I'm just sick. Out of nowhere. Gotta throw this Alani away, and I'm just grossed out. So people are like, what the fuck just happened, you know? I mean, us as kids, like, what just happened? Just started launching it. But then that, again, people have their own situations. Like, we joke about it. We all know it. But, like, people have their own situations. They got their own things, and that shit crazy. It's so crazy. Even the people I hate, I'm like, oh, God, I just hate your lifestyle. Like, I would hate to be in your life, like, in your world. I don't hate you. I hate
that's
the
what I was
world,
going to
and
speak
you
on.
are.
I was going to speak on that because it's not about, oh, you live in filth, you're filthy, I hate you, you're disgusting.
Because there's dirty people.
Because what we have to understand, and this is if we're ever going to go back to, like, what do we do, like, when it comes to change or utopia, you know, no more addicts, no more misery. One, we cannot have the goal be no more misery. Because that is not a useful goal. That's a terrible goal.
Well, in fact, that's the problem.
And yes, exactly. It's actually making everything worse. What we need, we cannot make compromises, because in this world, we cannot have compromises where I have to have a whole nation's shit in my drink because I can't find vitamin B12 when I can list 7 different plants. And there's also yerba mate. Like, it's already a packaged, quick, all of the things that y'all are looking for, that we are looking for. The thing is, you would sleep, you would drink water. And I'm not talking from an ableist perspective. I want to address that. It's like, if we all cared for each other, what we do, if we all recognize that your being in filth disgusts me because it causes me grief. It tells me on a primal level that my species is suffering. That's literally a call to survival, which is the impetus of life, which is your nervous system, which is water, which is your spine, which is all of our skeletons, which is brain matter and DNA and blood and all of these things that are ancient and old and all go back to the periodic table. All of this stuff is made from the same stuff. And that is crazy.
I think it's crazy, but it's also like quality.
It's beautiful. Look at how resourceful this stuff is.
But that's where I'm like, it's also just people get so lazy and okay with
We don't have to have nations poop in our beverages.
And even if we did, it's like, okay, then we're gonna have.
We could turn our own poop into nature bubble beverages.
Well, what I'm saying is like, okay, even if you wanted to do that, do that. Yeah. But don't be lazy and gross about it, you know? Like, I'm all here for advancing things, making things easier. Like, hell yeah, make my life easier. But I don't need to make my life easier.
Because what we're talking about is good business.
1,000 people to die and the worst. And so instead of having limited numbers of beef patties in a day, I'm gonna make a synthetic goo that can somehow supplement meat and make it last longer. And so now I'm making like a whole other person. Now we're just like making experiments.
Slaughtering mass cows.
Like, cool.
Producing
but like,
mass methane.
Do it in a, like.
Which is so many extra steps. And I'm not even preaching from like a soy perspective, but I'm saying like there are so many, you can use walnuts, cashews. There's so many other more accessible, and more abundant that take less steps. Like you don't have to feed it. You don't have to, like, there's already walnut trees. We are lucky enough to have that. And if we hadn't cut them all down to house the cows that have to be fed and raised and all of these treated and then slaughtered and then processed, like those are so many extra steps.
And then I think everybody says like, well, that's what they want us to be like. They want us poisoned. They're making us robots.
They? Because if we don't work, then they is not they. Well, like we are they.
Exactly, but it's even more so is like we say they, as in the people who started this idea. And those people
are so dead.
Are dead.
Dead.
But their children do live on. And so it's like, okay, let's think about that. So who is they? Oh, everybody that was born into this. So that's why when you want to say, well, that doesn't apply to me. Okay, yes, you might not be the billionaire's child, but you're somebody's child. So look at what you're doing. So even if you are, I don't have a job. You know what I'm saying? I did well enough. I was smart enough and resourceful enough. I don't even want to say smart enough. I just like didn't spend a lot of money, to be honest.
And what was our salary for the year?
44,000.
Okay.
And so I'm saying I've been chilling without a job for almost, my last day was February 14th and it is March 17th. So a month, and I'm not about to start a job in the next month. So I'm okay, and I'm in Tennessee. I just bought a car and I've been
in cash in full.
And I've been blessed because insurance came in clutch to give me that. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, I didn't spend a lot of money because I don't need a lot of money.
We live off the earth.
I just be chilling, you know what I mean? Like I chill in my own way. I just don't need a lot.
Stores.
But what I'm saying is, with my status and income and my socioeconomic standing, I am amongst the same population as the people that are the consumers that have no choice, right? I'm a kind of maybe a step above, or in you know,
you TJ Maxx shoppers,
of, you know what I mean,
and like secretaries and
you have a choice, but you don't really, but you kind of do.
Gym memberships.
In those ways, I'm saying. So you're this person's kid. So we're continuing these days by doing what they did, right? And then we're like, but they're doing it, and it's not. I can't do anything about it. And I'm like, because it's them. And I'm like, you're blaming your parents still, and that's cool. But like, when your parents are still alive, then they're blaming their parents, and if they're still alive, then you see how this is just going, and we're all passing the blame literally to each other, refusing to acknowledge that okay, we are all to blame, you know. So I know what I can do to not consume in this way, so I can make it. I do it. So I do it. Other days that you cheat and have like a fast food or I don't really, because I'm boycotting everything, so like I can't actually remember that. I count fast food as like going to eat out.
Yes,
that to me is like fast food. Like when I go get ramen or Indian, that's me getting fast food. Like that's my fast food, because one, it's getting cooked for me and it's faster than if I cooked it. Well, sometimes, because sometimes I'd be like, man, fuck this, I'm going home and I'm gonna make this myself. But whatever. So I think like
that's just part of also conscious consumption,
right? And so then, but that
there's no ethical consumption,
and that's
but
what
there's
I think
conscious
is crazy. Is it happened on its own? Like, I didn't go out of my way to try to be like this. I just like let myself be like, okay, I'm just gonna do. I started by doing the little things that were hard, Okay, but that's a little fun challenge. And then so I think like, okay, when you talk about like they want this, okay, so we'll stop letting them want that. Like if you don't want it, then let them want it, and then eventually you run out of theys and thems, or it becomes equal. So imagine we have, because now we make our own food. So if my sister wanted, she could start a restaurant right now. So then that could completely deter a whole group of people who are trying to do better, but there's just no places. Like out here, it would actually be hard to be a fast fooder. That's why we cook everything here, because there ain't nowhere you can eat here. Everything's meat and cheese. They don't even have a Kroger out here. So, okay.
We also don't live here. We live in Cincinnati.
Well, what I'm saying, though, is that if this was the case, so you're using this as your excuse. Fine. Okay, we start a restaurant. Boom. Now the people who have actually wanted to do things but really didn't have the resources are instantly coming this way. Because that's what happened to me. I wanted it. I just really didn't know where to go. And then I was like, oh, okay, here I can go. Bam. Now I'm losing. Now we're naturally dividing ourselves. Like, okay, you like that. Okay, I don't. And then if we all want that for a nation, on a nation side of things, think about it like that. Like, okay, so if I simply stop going here and go there, it might be less convenient, right? But you're paying a price in any direction. So like, okay, you're, instead of paying the price in convenience, you're paying the price in life points. I think about everything as a game. So I'm like, okay, I would rather waste my convenience points because I can make those back. Making back life points is a lot harder.
Dude, it's like damn near impossible.
Because, I can say like people have improved their lives, you can find a...
But you don't get time back.
Guru, but yeah, and I'm like, I just
and
don't
time is part of life
points.
I
have felt I've died way too many times.
Mm-hmm.
I have died way too many times to be like, I'm gonna keep earning life points. This shit is, look, I got permanent bags. I swear that's why people think I'm the older one. Because
That's
I'm
crazy. I think they think you're the older one because I'm just like
my life points.
Because I'm more like.
No, I've spent more life points.
No, I think it's because I don't walk when I walk in public. I'm not like, you know, and I'm just like.
It's because I've spared more life points. I'm telling you, I spent, because you would always be like, myself. No, she's always picked the harder route, the longer route, the way to.
I did.
The most, the hardest, you know, whatever. Like, all right, I'm gonna go that way, and I'm like, when it comes to like being reckless, hell yeah. But when it came to like, oh, you gotta like do something, nah.
Discipline.
I'd rather I would always choose convenience, and that's where I'm saying like, okay. That's why I don't think about money as the only way of an exchange. And I think that's the thing is like people forgot. And I won't say that that's where that term like brainwashing comes. Those things always like, I'm like, yeah, those are just.
It's still putting the blame on someone else.
And it's hard. Yeah,
you
and
make your own choices.
Right. And you just forgot. And like, that's cool. I forget all the time. I forget about stuff all the time. Even now, like I'm so healthy. Sometimes I'll be like, I'll be in the gym, I'll do a whole 2 hours and then realize that whole time I didn't even have my form right, bro. Like I was swaying like this.
What about
for
the water?
All 3 sets, I swayed.
What about
I
the
did
food?
I did them back flies, and every single set I did was wrong.
Yeah.
And then I realized, okay, so I essentially, wasted.
Maybe even made it worse.
Right. So it's like, okay,
that's called learning.
Right. And I'm like, so that's just.
Well, actually, no, it's called learning when you adapt and recognize and adapt.
Right. And I'm like, just go that route. Like, you know what I mean? I don't know. I just feel like that's the problem is people forget. And then they be acting like they don't want, well, I didn't forget. It's just, they did just on the back.
Weaponized incompetence?
Yeah, but I wouldn't say that. I would say that's just super defensive. Like, everyone's just super defensive because we're so hard on right and wrong. And that goes back to how we have to recognize that people are people. So if we wouldn't get naturally so defensive, if we had known, if we were in a society where we knew, oh, you prefer convenience. Nice. I don't. Great.
Well,
cool. Moving on. You could be like how a cat walks right past.
Well, the first step of that would mean you would have to know you prefer convenience, and that's the next step we have to know. And then what you know about that is not just what all your goods. It's like you need to know the weaknesses because that's honesty and it's the well-rounded and what makes you you, and that's why you
that's
fit
only how to amplify
exactly where
your
you
strength.
fit.
Right,
because
and that's where I'm like,
I cannot use eucalyptus for every single thing. I can use it for a lot of things, but there's certain things it won't be enough for.
And
if I want the best out of eucalyptus, I would have to use it with something like lemon balm or cayenne to like punch it up, and it'll really like elevate the eucalyptus. And I feel like all together, and even when you're growing these plants, they prefer to grow next to certain other ones and keep different bugs in this place, and they protect each other and defend each other. And it's up to humans to, I feel like what's so fascinating about our species is we have the ability to really craft, and like every species has some art making skill. Like, right, there's all types of weavers and there's all types of builders and lovers and connection makers, and like, there's the deep sea is just full of freaking colorful wonders of just marvelous life forms. But they don't, like, you don't see an octopus like building a nest. Like, they build rocks over themselves up, but they don't build nests like the weaver birds. And like you don't see ants like changing color like the octopus to communicate to each other. But like humans, we can come in so many different shapes and forms, which every species has its own like variants, right?
Just like mingle,
and we can like do what other people do and like figure it out and come up, create with. We can mimic other animals. There's only certain animals that can mimic other animals, and we can disguise. We can even trick animals into believing us. There's even fewer amount of like. There's that butterfly that can trick predators into thinking that it's a owl, but it's always to trick predators and to survive and to provide their life.
Anybody.
We could do it for fun. We could do it for survival, but on a primal level, like, and that's just like on a consciousness level, which is the extra thing we have, like, but because on our nervous system level, that is where you can be like, oh, do I feel more comfortable on the stage and being performance because it feels better to like mask and keeps me actually in a survival mode or whatever. Like then you can pathologize. That's why therapy's so great, because it gets your conscious like wowie spiritual meta human conscious like ego, whatever you want to call that. We created so many names for that, right? And that space combining with this primal periodic table stuff is like human. And that, I'm not saying we can witness this in other animals. That's because we can find bonds in things and we can recognize the bonds of things. And that's just the primal eye. That's the understanding of ecosystem and cohabitation. And then we have this beautiful poetic side of us that does things like this and like mutates the periodic table. Like we can see in, them take twigs and turn it into a house, but we've never seen anyone else or anything else make like electricity or like make a lighter or like
want to smoke.
Yeah.
Or have a drink.
Make a drink out of poop and sell it because everyone needs to work out.
Or cut down a tree to cut it up into smaller trees
and then carve
make
it
a pile
and sell it for money
and then
of little totems.
Leave the trees and then come back and be like, oh, and then forget again and then walk away. And then you have a pile of firewood, and then someone else who needs to start a fire is like, wow, look, cut logs already, woo! And then they make a fire. That's so crazy. And it's like, wow, you really did that. Like, that's crazy. Like, do that. That's what a human does.
So I think what this wonderful, like when we talk about what do we do, I think it's a super important conversation of both and. Your 3 parts at least.
I think that's why we got to sit down, because I think ultimately it boils down to we forgot, and I think because even the way with our relationship with mom, like I see her remembering, and she's like, wait, I used to think like that, or I used to have that.
She said without us, she would be stuck. She would have been stuck in a mentality.
And I was like, that's real, because I'm the same way. Like if I didn't. That's why I loved working with those kids, because there's something, like I've always been attached to my clients. I stay attached to my clients. But the kids, boy, I'm talking about, they change your whole perspective, because I think they're closer to that primality. I don't know if that's a word, but.
It is. Okay. And it's so true.
And I'm like, but then when I see it, I'm like, oh my God, like, this is why people, I think, get addicted to having kids. I think that's a whole other conversation, because I'm noticing something about people who have kids.
Yeah.
And I'm
noticing
like,
a lot of things. People.
Hold on, like, and the way they have kids. So I'm like, but damn, they do change your life, and so many people
literally like have kids. Like have them.
I have to.
Have.
I've even had dads tell me,
mine.
Well, it'll be like, it's even sometimes it's more like, I have to have a kid so that I have a reason to have to do something.
Yeah.
Like, I would be
it's
lazy
always
if
like
I
this
didn't
thing.
if I didn't have to grind. Like, so you use your kids as your reason.
My kid saved my life. You should keep yours.
And I'm like, wow. And it's like, damn, you really, really.
Which I love that for y'all, because that's your story, and that's awesome. But do you see again how we cannot project our stories onto others?
Yes, and like it reminds me, like y'all forgot, like you got so caught up. We got so caught up in this, like just like when you go to Deluluville, you forgot you were at fucking Deluluville. When I'm speeding through Tennessee, oh, you know what? I forgot I'm in Tennessee, and I'm driving a white Charger with Florida tags.
Yeah.
I wasn't speeding though, but like technically I was going 6 over, so like technically that's speeding. I forgot where I am.
Yeah.
I was in the restaurant and I burped, like, oops, forgot I was here, Oops. Hey. Yeah, I'm at my mom's. I almost dropped the F-bomb. Whoa. Like, oh, that's okay. Just, hey, remember? So we gotta like give ourselves the chance to
Grace
remember.
makes you be okay, so you don't turn that into like a beat up moment. Because everyone makes mistakes. That's how we learn. That's how we stay on our toes. That's what keeps us present. That's what makes exercising fun. That's what makes relationship building fun because you get to meet a new person every day and like figure out each other. Well, it's not that we all want to be the same. I think we just kind of, again, forgot our texture. And also we have to understand, especially in the West, we are being programmed to. And I don't mean,
we mean it in
what
the
I'm saying
sense,
is
yes.
not in the way of giving your power away, but in a way of recognizing that there are systemic measures in place and understanding your history so that, again, you can stay on your toes because we're always learning. And one needs to understand, oh no, not conspiracy theories, but you need to hear all the voices and understand your history because you cannot get anywhere if you don't know where you're at. You can't know you've been somewhere new if you don't know where you've been.
Everybody takes things too personally. It's like, dang, we can talk about it. Like, hey, you really, your family did this. Like, oh. So how can my family help your family? Because since we did this, like, we'll help you on that. Like, why is it gonna be like, oh my God, no, you didn't.
Well, even when we look at the facts and the proof, it's like, why are we all so programmed to, one, think that my suffering erases another's? And also, why do we feel this inclination to say, like, well, I don't trust your truth. You're absolutely out to get me wrong. When it's like, I just think that people, like, naivete is so not true and disgusting. Like, we should be able to trust our eyes and witness a thing. And if we are constantly living in prejudice and projection and survival, we make it so we can't trust our eyes. We can't trust our senses because we're always following this propaganda or this shouldn't, and not trusting our own gifts we were given to sense. And everyone has their own senses, and that's really important. I'm not talking feelings because feelings come from a labeling of what you're sensing, and that labeling of what you're sensing via bias, past experience, whatever, is what then gives you body feelings. This all happens quicker than that, right? Like, that's how you can see something, and then if you had a bad experience with a bee, you'll jump up, scream, and run, right? It gave you a feeling because your eye registered it for the bee. But then you see, oh, it wasn't a bee. I just saw, I don't know, my friend elbow dart or whatever, and then you're like, oh, I feel really silly, right? Because it's like, and then your body maybe calms down, or now you have to suffer the rest of that, like, not suffer, but you experience the rest of that chemical reaction in your body of getting that energy out because it sent you got sent a emergency response to your nervous system, and your nervous system was like, we are allergic to bees, that is going to kill us, survive, running away, because you're not about to fight a bee, because you're like, no, I don't trust myself to fucking fight a bee, and I don't want to get stung, I'm not going to punch this bee. So I'm not fighting, I'm flighting, and now you're flighting. But then when you see, oh, maybe it wasn't what I thought it was, the threat is gone, or the threat wasn't real, or I created the threat on myself, or the threat is this like overarching thing, your body doesn't either, is always in this panic mode, or it can, if you don't let it finish its process of like, oh, okay, I'm fine, I'm soothing, I'm getting back into rest and repair because I don't need to, the danger is gone. If we don't soothe, we just stay in this tension and the body stays in this space, and then we can't see anything because we're in constant like,
and then you just miss
and
it,
then
and you're only focused on
if you stay in this, you get acute burnout because your body then goes, okay, there's no more running. This is not a lion. This is not a sickness. This is a famine. This is starvation. This is the end. There is no survival. So it starts to shut itself down. It eats itself because that's the only way, that's the nervous system. And the more we know, that's our primality, that's our humanness, that's what we can see from observation. And that's why as we heal, it can feel like everything's getting sharper and more painful because it is. You can see it now. You can see just how deep and ouch it was. And that's where shame gets its power from being unspoken. And that's why we have to be graceful with ourselves in order to recognize and have actual compassion and space for others, because we can actually see, I know how this feels. Even if I've never been where you are, I can understand what it's like to feel something, to feel this thing, to experience this thing, because I don't even need to label it anymore. Because what I'm talking about is sensing. And what now I'm doing is I'm in touch with my environment. And now I feel like I can use this consciousness skill to actually like impact, improve, or like innovate with my environment because I can actually witness it. I can actually keep like, oh, this is what this makes this, and that is that, and like then we can have experimentation, exploration. That's how I think the difference between cultural appropriation and a cultural appreciation is that fine line. That's the fine line of everything. It's the both and, the dance, the paradox, the yin, the yang, the spiritual and the structure, right? Because they have to come together. Yeah. Come together. Mm-hmm. What do we do? Sit together.
Yeah, for real though. Like, and just remember. I just be thinking like you have to remember, because if you don't remember, as a person who doesn't like to remember, like
she does not like nostalgia.
Like, I truly will like I'll give myself like a dose every like couple weeks just to like, you know, stay humble. But like, so if you want me to sit down, and you rarely catch me reminiscing on things. Like, I'll reminisce about like certain childhood memories and things, but there will be years of my life that you will just never hear me talk about. But I'm gonna think about it once every couple weeks and be like, okay. Moving on. You know, because you have to remember what the fuck you are and what you've done and what you can do. Is if you don't remember what you're capable of, on both ends of the spectrum, like you gotta dose yourself with that concept. I remember when I was the top dog in high school. Okay, hold on to that. But also, you can't forget to remember the other stuff. The other stuff that you didn't pay attention to. The facial expression you missed the one time. Like, replay that memory one more time. And then continue on. Like, but you can't do that when you never stop to. You can't.
Shame gets its power from being unspoken.
And you gotta be. I remember my girl. She told me the other day. She was like, because I said I was gonna wallow. I was like, I'm just gonna wallow. That's how I felt. In my self pity. And she was like, wallow. She's like, oh, you know, I don't even give myself time to wallow. She was like, I just keep going. And I was thinking about that. And I was like, you know, that is one way to survive. But like, ooh-wee, boy, when that hits you.
Both and. Like, you gotta do both and. Sometimes you're nervous. Yeah, you know,
scales
we have
balance
to grieve.
is important. Like, there is a reason why it rains and storms.
Get rid of that, the rest of that energy. Remember the chemical reaction. The body has to complete that, right? Animals shake it off. Yeah. That's why movement helps. Y'all gotta understand, why does this work? It works because nervous systems. Yes, it works because human. It works because periodic table, and guess what? We are not.
But
so
also, it's
different.
like, if you like it, this is another thing I think though, because some people like they prefer their lives that way, and whether you prefer it because you have like some sick or not even sick, like it's just an ingrained belief that this is enjoyable, just like how some guys like to be in abusive relationships, like they love it. I know a guy that's like the only thing he hates is these relationships he's in, but it's the only thing he goes back to. Like, he'll do it to himself every time. That's just a
habit, an addiction.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, if you choose that, it's like he doesn't really care. Like, he's just like, this is what I do, and he'll even laugh about it. And so I'm like, okay, like, you're to the point where it's like, or born this way, because I don't know. I don't know. At this day and age, things are different. So I'm just like, cool. If that's how you feel, then so be it. But I think that's where it comes back to, we just have to also see each other as we are, because just like this guy told me this. This was the craziest thing. Like, we were watching Planet of the Apes. I'll always give this man credit for this. Like, crazy. I learned so much. We were watching Planet of the Apes, and he was like, because he knew how I felt. I'm like, everybody's just like, they're not inherently bad, like, ah. And then he's like, watch this movie. So we're watching it, and he's like, look at this. This is a monkey. These are monkeys, okay, or chimpanzees, apes. And the guy, you know, Caesar, I think his name is, like, the main ape, and
I guess
he's the good
alert.
one. Well, this is an old movie.
I don't know.
I feel like everyone has seen Planet. There's 3 Planet of the Apes now, but like, the main guy is like, you know, the good monkey who's like, I can't really remember. He's like,
what's the point of this?
So there's a bad monkey or a bad monkey that just has no reason, but he just like comes out of fucking nowhere, just like tearing shit up, but came from the same squad and everything, but he fucks with being bad. Like, he just fucks everything up, kills people out of nowhere, killed the horse. The horse had nothing to do with the whole situation. Oh, sorry, I was thinking about it. So I'm thinking about, okay, that ape chose this life. They enjoy this life. So sometimes people, they like to be like this. Is it my job, who enjoys happiness and sunshine and growth, to force a person who doesn't, and that's what I think is something
you cannot get rid of misery.
Right. It's like you must, and I'm not saying you have to allow it in terms of like you have to invite it into your world, but you can't go, I'm not going to sit here and go out of my way.
Recognize your attachments.
Yeah.
There's a certain level of, and also recognize the power of planting seeds and leading by example. It's all, again, a both and I think when it comes to, it's not important to pathologize. That's why I think therapy is helpful, but it's very dangerous because it's always trying to be like you giving people a pass.
Yeah.
And I'm coming from a family of therapists and been through therapies. Like, what I'm saying is like it doesn't make sense.
It's so powerful.
It doesn't make sense to give all these prescriptions, and I understand like when you break a leg you need a crutch. And I understand, like, oh, my body doesn't produce XYZ. And there are so many, because even drinking herbal tea is a prescription. So I'm not saying, I'm recognizing the both and, the duality and the levels to it all. And at the end of the day, I think when people are like, oh, I don't agree with that, or like, why does he always choose abusive relationships? That's not the question. That's not important to me. Like, that's not, if I'm not the abusive relationship, the only thing I can be is not the abusive relationship. The only thing I could do is to ask myself, why am I so attached to this man's relationship? And explore that. Figure out what that is. Give myself the time, grace, space, energy, and discipline required to hear my own,
9 times out of 10, it boils down to either you're bored or you're looking for a reason to get out of your life. And I think that's, again, why we got to sit down.
How do we use people to build our ego? How do we use people as escapist tools? Again, going back to why these people having kids.
Right. Like, I was just thinking about moms, bro. Hold on. Because I got a theory. I got to write it down.
We got to write.
I
think it's probably writing time. My toesies are cold.
I was going to say, I want to eat breakfast.
Breakfast time!
Do they have eggs?
G gets eggs from the farmer down the way. Well, I guess he's not a farmer. He's just a guy from the church. They're all farmers. Well,
thank you.
Happy Tuesday.